today we continue with our video series looking at First Commandment questions, or questions concerning the First Commandment. So when you hear "you shall have no other gods," these would be questions that somebody might ask. And so today's question is, what is God? Well, according to John chapter 4, verse 24, God is spirit. And so what does this mean, that God is spirit? Well, it does not mean that God is a mere idea. It does not mean that God is just something formed in the imagination of man. It means he is a being. His existence doesn't depend on something else like us. As creatures, we depend upon our Creator. And since God is the Creator, he depends upon no one. He is the beginning and really has no beginning and has no end. But from our perspective, he's the beginning of us, okay, as he creates us. Without him, there's no beginning for you and I. He is self-existing. He's invisible. He's personal. He has intellect, emotions, and will, and yet no body. That's what we're talking about when we hear that God is spirit. And our finite minds use anthropomorphism to try to help us understand, and that's just a fancy way of attaching something to God, like a hand or an arm or a leg or whatever it is that you might use. So for example, from like Ephesians chapter 1 verse 20, we hear that Jesus has ascended and is at the right hand of God. And so since God is a spirit and doesn't have a body, it's not really a hand. It just helps us kind of understand that Jesus is in this position of authority next to God. Okay? And so anyway, so it's a little bit more of a challenge. This is not real easy to talk about, particularly for us who are limited with knowledge and wisdom and insight. Much of this is just incomprehensible to us, which is okay, because where we're going to go next is we're going to look at the attributes of God, and it's a little bit more familiar for us when we begin to think of God according to his attributes. It seems to help us make a little bit more sense of it. But nonetheless, God is spirit, without body, doesn't depend on anybody else, but is personal, has an intellect, has emotions, but no body. Okay, and we have at times, we are very limited as to how we can try to describe them, but we have to use terms that we're familiar with to try to make sense of it. Okay, we'll continue with attributes next video. Have a good day.